live from Studio 6B, 32 past the hour, Tuesday, November 14th. Sabrina's here with entertainment. Vinnie Mac is off today, still in Italy. I think he's coming home tonight.
Buongiorno.
Yes, and he'll be here tomorrow. But right now, Real Property Management takes care of rental homes so property owners, investors can avoid the hassles and interruptions to their daily life. There are more than 14 million rental property investors in the United States. The Real Property Management Organization has opened over 300 locations throughout the United States and Canada. They have refined systems and processes, added new technologies, built best-in-class training systems, and created first-class marketing tools. Today, the Real Property Management Franchise Organization is the largest property management organization in North America. The CEO of Real Property Management is Lucas Kraus, and he joins us on the show today. Please welcome Lucas Kraus.
Hey, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
How are you?
Doing great.
So I was telling Sabrina that this is an interesting topic because I was just having a conversation with a friend of mine. We were looking at buying a property out of state to use as a rental, and we kind of looked at each other and said, well, he's busy, I'm busy, and we kind of said, you know, I don't know, who's going to do this, all the stuff that comes with it. Well, so tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us a little bit about what you guys do.
Yeah, so it's funny, I heard you talking about it. I didn't even know the industry existed till I joined the organization in 2011. It's kind of one of those things, property management flies under the radar. My background, somewhat of an eclectic set of experiences, started in the telecom industry, ended up with the Capital Group that owned Quiznos and wore a lot of different hats. That's where my franchise experience came. I left there when I was running the international brand, spent some time in China. I didn't really get the silverware stuff right either when I was out there, so don't worry. Those folks there. But then I actually built a startup company underneath a large consulting group, and it was a lot of fun. And then I joined Real Property Management to run the operations. And Real Property Management, as you mentioned, is the largest single-family property management company in the country. And our whole goal is really to make it a turnkey operation for those people like yourself who are looking to buy a property and just don't want to deal with the headaches that come with owning that property.
Yeah. So are your customers typically someone like me who I just kind of described, or is it more business? Is it corporations who owning properties, or is it more just individuals who have vacation homes, or who is your customer?
Yeah, we have a couple of different distinct customers. You have the intentional investors, who are individuals or large investment banks or groups like that, who are using rental property as an intentional strategy for wealth creation. And then the other category we call accidental landlords are individuals, maybe through life situation, had a couple that each had a home, gets married, they decide to keep the other home and rent it out, or someone moves for a job. So a lot of folks more intentionally as of late, but there's still those life situations where people just hold on to a family home.
So tell us a little bit about the company. Let's start there. How big is the company? How long you've been with them? And now you have 300 offices. So give us like the 10,000-foot overview of the company itself.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, we have 300 offices across the United States. We manage over 14 billion worth of homes across the U.S., primarily focused on single-family homes and condos. We do some small complexes, HOAs. And so we've been around since 1986, but actually as a franchise concept only since 2006. When I joined the organization, it was, after they went through some explosive growth up to 0 to 100 locations because of, kind of the housing collapse. And when I came on in 2011, things were starting to slow down as more people were, now able to start to sell their homes because the housing market started to recover. And our client mix really shifted towards that intentional investors. And so, what we do end to end is kind of, as you described earlier in the show, it's everything. It's getting the home rent ready, screening the tenant, making sure that they're capable of, covering what that rent is on a monthly basis. There's the repairs and maintenance, the coordination behind it, the preparation of the tax documents, so that when you do your income tax filings, you got all your accounting records in order. And so there's just a ton of work because most people think it's simply collecting a rent check, but there's just so much more behind the scenes. And you can get yourself in a lot of trouble. There are federal and local habitability requirements you need to make sure that you're following, because you could get sued very quickly or be imposed significant fines.
Yeah, that's a great point. Because that's something most people probably don't think of. I want to go back, and I apologize if I'm asking you the same question again. But are you dealing mainly with people who want to rent long term to, let's say, a permanent resident to a home of theirs, or are you dealing with that plus someone who owns a vacation home whom that tenant might change out every week or 2 weeks?
Yeah, so we actually do both. I'd say our primary focus is long-term rentals, but we have offices in Hawaii, Florida, some of those more destination places where that has to be part of their portfolio as they manage. It's like a close cousin, so it's not materially different to do short-term versus long-term rentals. The difference is it's closer to like hotels where you're turning over those homes more quickly versus say a 12-month or a 24-month lease. But we do both, but I'd say it skews towards vacation rentals more in our Hawaiis or our resort type destinations.
So in my intro, I said Real Property Management Franchise Organization. So talk to me about the franchise part of this. Are you guys franchising this as a business, or how is this different from the business?
Yeah, so we do have our own corporately owned locations, but it is a franchise concept. That was what was started in 2006, the core business in 1986. And most people will jump in to buy a franchise versus start their own business for a couple of different reasons. Because first off, the success rates for a franchise is exponentially higher than starting on your own. And really that becomes because you have operational procedure manuals, playbooks on marketing, a proven model, but you also have a support team behind you to help you through the different life cycle elements of the business. Your needs are very different when you're starting out at 0 properties and learning how to do client acquisition, to getting your first 100 to your next 200 to 500 to 1,000. And so the team here is well versed in supporting you in those different ebbs and flows of the business.
So let's talk about the market, because I don't know if people are aware of certainly 300 locations. It's a big growing business you're running. So what's the competition like?
Yeah, it's very much like anything else you'd expect in real estate, very local. It'd probably surprise you to know that there are over 80,000 property management companies out there in the United States. And the reason is there's very little barriers to entry. And it's something that obviously concerns us, because most states, the only requirement is you get a real estate license. And you have virtually no training. When you get your real estate license, it's primarily focused on the sales side. Maybe you get in that 120 hours of classroom, 2 hours. And so our space is kind of littered with individuals who are kind of stumbling through and trying to figure it out. Give you an idea how small most people are in this space. 79% of those 80,000 plus have less than 5 employees in their office.
Wow.
That's incredible.
So I read, I think I read, maybe it was on your website. We're speaking with Lucas Kraus. He's the CEO of Real Property Management. You can visit him online at realpropertymgt.com. It's right there on the screen. I read somewhere that after 2008, home ownership had declined. I believe it was something from 69% to 63. I may have these numbers wrong, but each percentage point was the equivalent of 1 million homes. Do I have that right?
Yeah, it was nodding along when you were talking about that earlier. You're spot on.
Wow.
So that gives you just a little idea of the size of the market. If you're talking about 7 million homes just in the last couple years, last 10 years, that have gone from ownership to possible rental.
It's a big shift. You have this dynamic going on. You have the millennial generation not participating in home ownership rates like previous generations. And, they're saddled with student debt, unlike any other generation. But they also just, don't subscribe to the kind of the American dream. And they were a little, shell-shocked and gun-shy because of what they saw happen to their parents, maybe overextending themselves with homes.
Yeah. So besides some of the stuff we've already talked about, your size, your 300 locations, your people, your staff, the fact that you guys have been doing this for a long time, why does somebody who's out there looking, what separates you guys from the competition that you just described? And then I want to follow up with that on, if someone does decide to go with you, what they can expect when they first reach out to you. But give me the first part first.
Yeah, so Real Property Management stands out from the rest of the space through our processes and our system. And what that really means is give you an idea of timely oversight and placement of new tenants. And what that does is help reduce the vacancy times, but also mitigate the risk of evictions. Because when it's all said and done, that rent collection is the revenue source for your business as that rental property. The other side is proprietary marketing, local knowledge, but also knowledge for the investors on what type of upgrades or updates you need to make to command that highest rent. And so the way we look at it is, how do we optimize your return on investment as that property owner?
So let's talk about the future. And actually, before I get back to my other question, technology too. What part does technology play in this business, and where do you see it changing, and how do you keep pace with that?
Yeah, so technology is a big part of it. As I mentioned, a very fragmented industry. It tends to skew towards, boomers or older generations, and so it is still a paper and pen-driven industry. Our whole focus has been about digitizing the platform. Our whole culture has been based on innovation and really evolving over time. And so, as one of the custodians of the brand, it's very important that we invest in that technology and also harvest best practices from our franchisees. They're the ones out there every day, kind of mixing it up in the trenches. And so some of the best innovation is coming from them. And the way we deliver it, I say a differentiated product with that technology is really all about giving data and information back to the investor. And so what we believe is we want to change the customer's expectations on what this product should look like. And so, your example of having that investment property, we want to be able to inform you with proprietary information that helps you make informed decisions on what kind of repairs you need to make, what kind of reserves and preparation for maybe the roof failing, leaking, and what kind of return investment you're getting, but also what that hold period should look like, and what the housing market's doing. Should you sell it, hold on to it? And so we've invested heavily in business intelligence and a lot of digitization of our platform to fundamentally change how customers view the product.
I got about a minute left here. So when does, I guess the main question, I'm sure you guys, obviously you want them to come right away. You guys are the major player in this space, but is there a certain time that someone should finally say, you know what, maybe I need to go and reach out and get some help here and get on the phone and call you guys?
Yeah, the moment they're thinking about it, they've probably had a problem. That's usually what happens. The first time they have an eviction, the first time they get sued for a fair housing issue, that's typically when the individual kind of comes in and asks for our services. That, or they're getting that midnight call of the toilet broke and you need to repair this right away. We'd love to see them, as you mentioned, immediately once they buy the home and are looking to, to lease it out. But those are the kind of typical triggers.
Lucas Kraus, CEO of Real Property Management. You can visit him online, www.realpropertymgt.com. Lucas, thanks for coming on. We'd love to have you back on. Great discussion.
Yeah, love to. Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
All right, Lucas Kraus, Real Property Management. We'll be back.
Gio?
I took 2 weeks vacation for the honeymoon. A couple tickets all